Друзі, привіт усім! Вітаю вас на каналі Київського міського автомотоклубу. Ми продовжуємо нашу серію танкування. І сьогодні у нас надзвичайно цікавий, хоч і молодий гість. Вітайте! Чемпіон Європи з картингу 2023 року Олександр Бондарєв. Друзі, інтерв'ю проводимо англійською мовою. Так, в принципі, буде зручніше. Олександр, hello.
Hello.
Let's start with WSK Champions Cup, which ended just last weekend. It was, I guess, for you, it was very good, probably even amazing weekend with your win. So tell us a few words about the weekend at Lonata del Garda in Italy, in eastern part of Lombardy. It took place. So tell us, please.
Well, of course, I have to say that it was a very difficult weekend. Starting from qualifying, I didn't manage to get pole position, but because I didn't do the best of laps at the end, which of course made it a little bit more difficult because 2 out of the 3 races coming up to Sunday, I had to start from the outside row, which in karting it's of course quite difficult to start from, and yeah. But still, the speed the whole weekend was amazing. The speed was great. We managed to get a win and then another win on track. But then after I did a small mistake with a jump start, I got a 10-second penalty, which dropped us back to P13. And then in the last heat, it was probably one of the best races of my life. I dropped back to P20 on turn one after I had the car spin right in front of me, and then came through back to second place to secure P2 on the grid for the pre-final on Sunday. So of course the speed was great, and then already on Sunday in the pre-final I managed to win the race. The speed was good, but I expect a bit more, as we had 4 drivers always on my rear. And then the final, it was a great, very long race, very tiring. And I think we struggled a bit at the end with performance, as there was one driver who was quite, I think, a little bit faster than us, which we didn't expect coming into the race. But still, a win is a great way to start the season, and hopefully have a lot more of those this season.
Uh, can you tell a little bit? Because as you said, the race was long, but at the same time, for the viewers, it was quite short, and it was a spectacular race. And once again, you said that you've been struggling a little bit in the end. You mean while you were protecting your P1 against Yen?
No, I think, yeah, of course, Lonato is one of the hardest tracks physically. It has a lot of high speed corners, which you need to be very strong at, and also the OK category is, I think, is the second hardest category in the world. So, yeah, no, I was saying that I was struggling a bit. I think I wasn't really protecting my position against Ian, but it was just that he was always on the back, putting some pressure. So it was very important to not do any mistakes, to stay calm, to stay preserved, and yeah, and bring the car home in P1.
And could you tell, please, what about the landscape of karting track at Monata? On the screen, there is a visible change of the elevation, but how much does it feel inside the kart?
Well, I'd say most karting tracks, because they're quite small in distance compared to like Formula One track. They don't really have a lot of elevation changes, but I'd say Lonato is one of the most tracks that have elevation changes, especially when you're coming down into the chicane. You can actually feel that it's like you're going the downhill a lot. So it's of course a really nice track, one of my favorites. And yeah, it's very fast, of course, because the track is quite short and it's made for slower cars than the OK category. So everything happens very fast, and every small mistake can be very, very costly.
So that elevation changes, did it force you to change something in your driving style, or somehow to adapt to track itself?
Well, the elevation changes don't really matter a lot in karting, but because the aerodynamic is not very big, so you don't really get the gusts of wind don't really affect you as much as they do in Formula One. But yeah, I think that it's still all everything happens very fast. The speed of the engine is so huge. So it's always very difficult to control the car, especially in high speed corners.
Okay. Previously, you mentioned that OK cards, they are second of the most difficult cards. And which one is number one, the most difficult?
I think the KZ1 and KZ2, they are the gearbox categories. They are, I'd say, a lot of F1 drivers that do a couple of sessions in KZ say that for them it's a lot more tiring than even Formula One. So yeah, it's very difficult because this category can be driven by people starting from 14 years old, which you can see it's very difficult to stay at that level and be as fast as the guys that have been in the category for a lot of years already. So yeah, I'd say it's a very interesting category.
Okay. Uh, Let us speak a bit about last year, about your championship, which you won 4 rounds. Valencia, Tršinec, Rhodbu, and Cremona. 4 rounds, 2 wins, 2 more podiums. So all rounds, and you've been on podium at each of them. I guess that you loved more the Czech and Danish, because you won there. But at the same time, tell us about the tracks. Which one did you like more than others? And maybe you can tell us something about these tracks and your results on these tracks as well.
Well, of course, the European Championship, I'd say, is one of the most competitive series in karting, and all the teams want to win it. That's why it's very difficult. And the most important thing to stay is stay consistent in every of the 4 rounds to be to win the championship. So before every round, all the teams go to those tracks to test the different setups, different settings that might be used in the race. And yeah, of course, because I won there, my favorite track was the one in Czech Republic. But yeah, all 4 tracks were pretty new to the teams, because two of them in Czech and Denmark have never been seen by any of the teams before. It was like newly built tracks that no one's seen before, and Valencia and Cremona have not hosted a lot of races before also. So it was very difficult to adapt to everything during the race weekend. I'd say, yeah, all the track surfaces and different stuff is very different in all four tracks. So you have to adapt your driving style and all the settings everywhere you go. But yeah, the whole team of Car Republic worked really well to adapt to each of those tracks, and yeah, you can see it in the result that it all pays off.
Yeah, for sure. One more question about these tracks. I noticed that 3 of them are, as most of the tracks, karting tracks, usual length is 1.2 kilometers, yeah? And Valencia is 1.4. one may say just 200 meters, but on the other side, it's 14% longer than usual length. Did it somehow influence driving style, maybe because of the less laps required for the same distance? Was that somehow any kind of characteristic that influenced?
No, I think that it didn't really influence a lot because Valencia has a lot more straights than the other three tracks. So the amount of corners is pretty much the same thing. And while you drive, you don't really feel as big of a difference because the lap times in all four races were pretty much, I'd say, similar in the gap of like 5, 6, 7 seconds. So when you drive, you just try to do every track as fast as you can to be the fastest out of all the drivers. So you don't really feel the difference in the little length of the track because, like, personally, my favorite karting track is 1.6 or 1.7 kilometers, even longer. So of course, it has more straights as well, but to be honest, you don't really feel a lot of the difference of the length of the tracks.
Okay, so I would like to ask that question a little bit later, but you already mentioned, so I have to do it right now. Which exactly is your favorite karting track?
Uh, I think 2 years ago it was the circuit in Naples, Sarno. But now, to be honest, I don't really have a favorite track, as you have to always you have to be good in all the tracks. You can't just be good in one and then the other ones not so much. But uh, but yeah, I'd say there are a lot of new tracks built now that are really nice with smooth surfaces and stuff like that. But there are just some tracks where you understand them more and have a better connection with them than the others. And those are the tracks that you eventually do better at.
Okay, let us speak a little bit about your nowadays about your team. So last year in European Championship, you were doing and you were part of Kart Republic.
Yep.
Now you moved to Prema, which we know as probably one of the most competitive teams when we speak of junior of karting in the junior feeder series F4, F3, F2 as well. So what can you tell about the differences or something which has impressed you since you moved to Prema?
Well, I have to say the Prema is a part of KR, so the switch from KR to Prema was basically just the different stickers because it's all part of one family basically. At the start of 2023, Prema went to KR, and then they asked to create a team in karting, which will be part of KR, which is pretty much using the almost the same material. So yeah, that it wasn't really a big change when coming to Prema, but of course, as you mentioned, Prema is one of the best single-seater teams ever, I'd say. So of course, it's a great feeling to be part of that, and hopefully stay with them in the future.
Yeah. Okay. And now speaking about the cards themselves, speaking about the chassis, uh, what can you tell about the differences? Because we have the Kart Republic, we have Tony Kart, we have Maranello, we have CRG, Interpete, Parolin, Birelart, and so on. I think that for someone who is not too much aware of karting, that would be probably too much of information, but still, what are the differences? Are they some tiny marginal, or there are really some significant differences between these manufacturers and between their chassis?
Well, I'd say that every manufacturer of karting works really hard to make their karts go faster than others. So if you look at the protocols of the lap times, all the times and the results are very close over a lot of
Yeah, sure.
manufacturers of cards. So I'd say it's not very big of a difference because every card can be really good if it's set up well, if it has the right settings to the track that you're in. And I'd say that you can go fast in any card as long as it's set up well and perfect how the driver likes his card to be.
Okay, but at the same time, yesterday in the final, top 4 places in the final protocol after all penalties were applied were all KR.
Yeah, well, I'd say that the track that we were at yesterday suits the KR quite well, which you can see in the results that the top 4 places were all KR. But yeah, I think that a lot of like, of course, the final protocol shows a lot, but during the weekend, a lot of different teams came close to beating KR. Just some had an accident in the final, some were close with the penalty. So yeah, it might look like KR were dominated, but to be honest, if you look at the whole picture of the weekend, like the pole position was set by the Monster K team and I think Intrepid Chassis, and then through the weekend I think the most speed was KR because the cars are really good in races.
Okay, and I think to a few more questions regarding that weekend. Uh, how do you work, or do you manage somehow maybe share some information with Selim Hanna, with your teammate of the team? Because well, we know in the final race you were starting from front row, he from the pole, you from the second place, and in the end, after the penalty applied to Yen, I mean Selim, promoted to third place. So it was for your team, for Prema, it was in the end, ultimately, it was a great result. Yeah, double win and a podium. So how do you communicate with Selim?
Well, of course, everyone in the team and every category works to bring the team the best result possible. So the team might even try the different stuff on a lot of drivers just to see what is best that then can be used for all the drivers to make them go faster. So of course the whole team shares information that they work together to make the cards as fast as possible, and then so they can be very competitive in the races. And yeah, I'd say even though there were only two Prema cars in senior for this race, also the other KR drivers share a lot of information. Like Gael Bag, who finished second after all. We all communicate between each other and try to get the team the best result.
Okay. By the way, did he surprise you? I'm talking about
Well,
Albert.
to be honest, all the care drivers in the top 4 have been really good over the whole weekend. So I think if you look at the previous results that the drivers did, it might seem quite surprised. But if you see the work that has been put in by every driver across the weekend, it's not surprising that those drivers get a really good result.
Okay, and the final question about Monato, about that weekend. How does it feel to race at this temperature? Because it was yesterday, it was about 3 to 7 degrees, depending on time of the day.
It was very difficult, especially in the morning and the last sessions of the day, because it was like I think -1 to maximum like 3 4 degrees. So of course you have to keep all the temperatures in the right window, which can be quite tricky in these conditions. So and also like as a driver, your hands get very cold when you drive. So you have to wear a special type of gloves to keep your hands warm, and because especially like in the final, which is 21 laps, you keep driving around, and the temperature gets colder and colder. So sometimes you can arrive back to the pit lane and you physically cannot move your hands anymore. But then it's very difficult to get them back to temperature, and then you can have a lot of pain. So for the teams and for the driver, it's very difficult to race under these conditions.
And I guess for mechanics as well, when they need to do some stuff with the cards at the same temperatures.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, when the mechanics are watching the race, that they have to stay cold for a lot of time, which for them is for sure also very difficult.
And at the same time, looking at the grandstands, there were a few dozens of people at the grandstands yesterday. So they also were watching at the same conditions, but it was quite surprising that still people are coming, and that was very nice to see them. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, well, of course, it's nice to see a lot of people coming to watch these great races, especially when the temperatures are that low. But yeah, it was very cold since the days that we started testing and preparing for the races. So we already kind of understood what the conditions will be for the race. But of course, for the visitors to stand there for 21 laps and just watch. Also, when I was watching the other races on Saturday and Friday, whenever you don't have your gloves, your hat, you just get very cold, and then you have to stay in the heating a lot of time to warm up again.
Yeah. So as a conclusion, we may say that racing in the spring and summer period is much better. At least it's much comfortable.
Well, it is more comfortable, but also when the temperatures are very hot, like especially in June or July. It's very difficult to again keep the engines, the tires, the brakes in the right temperature window, because then when everything gets too hot, you lose a lot of performance. Which you can see that normally in the winter the lap times are a lot faster than in the summer.
An interesting aspect. Yeah, but at the same time, you still have to heat the tires when it comes about the winter periods,
Yeah,
which also is a
because
trick.
normally you get one maximum 2 laps of preparation before you actually start. So it's very difficult to get the tires on the temperature in the winter. But then in the summer, when you go out, I don't think you even need to warm up the tires, because everything is already so warm, so hot, so you don't even need to weave or do anything like that.
It was really a kind of sensation last year when you signed with Williams F1 Academy. It was a big surprise, at least here in Ukraine, for many people. And of course, I guess almost everyone wishes you all the best. Yeah, but at the same time, tell us about the Williams, about how did it start your work with Williams F1 Academy?
Well, of course, after I won the European Championship at the end of July, Williams Racing reached out to my manager and wanted me to join their academy, which of course was a great opportunity for me. It's a really big step in my career to join an F1 academy. It's a really nice move in the right direction. So of course we want to join them, so we did. And yeah, now we start the physical work and mental work preparing for this year.
Okay. Speaking of this year, what are the plans for this particular for 2024?
Well, of course, the plans are to do a full season in karting in the OK category, which will be again the European Championship and then the World Championship at the end of the year. So of course that's the main goal for the year, and we want to see how it's gonna work out in this category.
So, are we going to see you, or can we expect to see you in the championship, which will start in March at Valencia? Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna do that race, and the team is already preparing a lot for that race. So we of course we want to do really well to start the European campaign.
So Valencia, Val d'Argenton, then Slovak karting, and Sweden, Christian Stad. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Exactly.
for
So
now.
that's yeah, one more 4 round championship, yeah, 4 rounds in championship, and of course we will hold our hands for you, for to see you in the best possible conditions and the stuff like that. And now, one question which probably not the best for you, because it's about some not very good memories, the memories about 2022. But I don't want to ask about rehab and the operations and some of the surgeries. I just want to ask you about that short video which Charles Leclerc made for you and posted on the social media. Was it unexpected? Was it a surprise? How did you how did you get it?
Well, honestly, I was in my cast or already. We left the hospital, and I was at home playing the sim, and then my mom came to me and then showed me the video. I'm like, is this actually real? Of course, I was very surprised to see that, but yeah, it was a very nice, very big shock for me, and I was very happy to see a really big person like an F1 driver support me in my recovery back to racing. So yeah, of course, it was really nice from his side to do this.
Okay. You mentioned that you were doing some stuff with your sim. So tell us, what about the sim? What about the sim racing? As far as I already know, you do use some sim. Uh, so what exactly you do, and which software do you use? Which probably game or some maybe some particular software you're using?
No, like right now, I use I play a lot on the sim in iRacing, which is my favorite software or game right now. Every time every day I come back from school, I jump on the sim, do a couple of races, and I enjoy it a lot. I enjoy sim racing a lot. So yeah, every time I go on the sim, of course, it's very competitive. So sometimes I have some incidents and stuff, but other than that, it's very nice every time I go on the sim.
Okay, you said iRacing is your favorite. Can you tell a few words about why it's your favorite?
Well, first of all, a lot of other drivers you use the game, so I can also race against them. So which is a really nice touch. And also, mostly drive on the F4 car on iRacing. I like it a lot, and I do a lot of races with it. So I think I also out of all the games that I've played, I think it has one of the best graphics, and is the most realistic out of a lot of games that I've tried. So yeah, I like iRacing a lot because of all the things I mentioned.
Okay. But at the same time, as you said, you've tried the others. What about Air Factor? What about Assetto Corsa Competizione? Maybe Race Room? How can you compare them with iRacing or
Well,
probably Thailand?
honestly, the only one that I've tried from the ones you mentioned is Assetto Corsa. So
Okay.
of course, there are not. I don't do a lot of because I don't think that you can do a lot of races in Assetto Corsa. That's why I opt to go for iRacing. But Assetto Corsa can also sometimes be nice because it has a better tracks that are more that are more mostly needed for me. So sometimes I also go on Assetto Corsa just to do a couple of laps.
Okay. And so I know that you cannot tell because you do not know about the plans for 2025. But at the same time, I guess we know at least the wishes because you already told that you spend many time racing F4 cars in iRacing. So speaking about the goals, in a couple of months, you will turn 15, which means you will be eligible for F4 cars. Is it the goal? Is it the goal as a next step for you?
Well, of course, we're gonna finish 2024 just doing okay senior, but of course, like nothing is for sure yet, and I don't even know what are the plans for the next year. But of course, I really want to do Formula 4, and yeah, that's my goal for the future.
For the next step in the whole career, because believe or not, but here a lot of people are wishing you to end up with the F1 seat as a racing driver. Okay, Alexander, it was really very, very nice to speak to you, and I understand that we have some time limits, and I hope we will have more than one opportunities to meet later. Even this year, I hope so. To chat, to speak about about the other races, the new victories, the new titles, and so on. Thank you so much for finding time for this interview.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks so much for everything.
Друзі, це був Олександр Бондарєв, і це була наша розмова, наше чергове танкування про картинг здебільшого, але й трошки про сімрейсинг. Знайшли час, знайшли можливість. Сімрейсинг, iRacing, зокрема. Дякую, що дивилися. Далі буде. Ну і не забуваємо, що героям слава, ворогам смерть.